It lives in these 4 boxes, 2,400 typed pages, every word spoken in perhaps the most famous trial in Nashville history. A case still technically unsolved. A case of murder, revenge, greed, and racism. And for this man, the ultimate heartbreak.
You know, I knew in the back of my mind that my dad wasn't going to make it, but I was still holding on, still praying, still hoping.
Billy Gourley has never talked publicly about the death of his father until now.
In a matter of a second, my father was stolen from me, my future was stolen, and it was stolen. I wanted for Nashville to never forget what happened to my dad.
And follow the highway in a smooth-running Capital Chevrolet.
Capital, follow the highway in a Chevrolet.
In 1967, when I was a senior, Dr. King came to Vanderbilt. We had these symposiums. Vanderbilt was just packed, and I was there. And I just remember Dr. King's, it was like a sermon, very rousing. And I remember that everybody stood up after his speech, but a few people didn't. And so I kind of remember looking around and thinking, we're not there yet. We had one black student.
3 days shy of a year later, King was assassinated.
Dr. King was killed on April 4th, 1968, the day of the grand opening of Capital Chevrolet.
A brand new building for the successful dealership on Murfreesboro Road.
That evening, about 6 o'clock, Nashville did explode. And there was a lot of rioting in North Nashville and other parts of Nashville.
That simmering racial tension would soon come to a boil when 2 business partners took a ride. One of them died, and the other pointed the finger at an unknown, unseen black man.
Black man, mysterious black man, had jumped into the back seat of a car.
Some Negro jumped in the back seat and shot him.
If he was jumping in to rob them, why did he not take the money?
It was a dusty road out there. There was construction, but there was nothing in the back seat. No dust. There was no footprints.
And I thought, this is not what happened. This is not what happened. There was no doubt in my mind who killed my father. No doubt.
On the morning of May 24th, there was already a degree of tension between Haynie Gourley and his protégé partner, Bill Powell. Powell had bristled at the thought of Billy Gourley taking a bigger role at Capital Chevrolet.
I was waiting to go to the dealer candidate school. They would groom you, and if you could get through the school, then you were 99% sure that you would get a franchise.
At the time, Bill Powell owned just a quarter of the company's stock.
Bill Powell said, maybe I should step aside. And my father said, yes, that would probably be the best thing to do.
Mr. Gourley thought it was best to just buy out Powell's interest. He'd already made calls to the bank.
And the next day, my father starts getting the things rolling. Told I'm one of the managers there that Bill Powell will be leaving us, but I want you to stay with us. And then Friday morning, when my father came in, about 15 minutes later, he comes to me and tells me that Bill Powell wants to take a ride.
The two had had a good relationship, been partners for 3 years.
Mr. Gourley, he got his accountant to draw up a contract with Powell to sell him the stock. But what he didn't do was he didn't look closely at that contract. Because in paragraph 3, if one of them died, the other would become the dealer. Regardless of how much stock Mr. Gourley owned, the franchise was the important thing because that was the contract with General Motors. So Bill Powell got behind the wheel of Mr. Gourley's car, a 68 Caprice, black, 4-door, and they drove out of the headquarters.
I'm downstairs, I get a phone call, father's been in an accident, and I run upstairs, and Bill Powell was sitting on the couch, and my father's just leaning up against the wall. And I said, "What happened?" I looked at Bill Powell, "What happened?" And then one of the managers took me out and said, someone jumped in the car to rob them, and your father was shot and killed.
So Bill Powell, he never spoke to you. He never
No.
recounted
No,
a story to you.
never ever.
Powell, who had been grazed in the leg, drove his partner back to the dealership, not to a hospital. By the time Haynie Gourley did get to General Hospital, it was too late.
They laid him out here, Mr. Gourley, on a slab, and the bullet fell out. There was a bullet that had gone in the back seat and come through. Somebody had shot from the back seat and hit a piece of steel in the seat, and it reflected off. And I thought that was very suspicious.
Sherman Nickens was the chief investigator. He left a second job and headed to Murfreesboro Road.
And there was a car sitting there, but people were milling around it, and you don't dare touch nothing that's involved in a scene. That was a scene right there for me. Oh yeah, had people been touching it? Of course they had. Well, fingerprints, blood splatters, because we had one dead man and one other shot.
And by the time police got a look at Bill Powell, there was more evidence gone.
If I'm going to investigate it, I want that Bill Powell. I want his hands in bags. I don't want him to change clothes. I don't want him to do nothing. Went back to the hospital. They took the wrappers off of Bill Powell. They cleaned him up. He had on hospital clothes. They'd killed that scene.
It would be 10 months before a grand jury indicted Bill Powell for the murder of Haynie Gourley. Billy was advised to keep working while grieving and seething with anger.
If you want to get the franchise, Billy, you're going to have to work there to show Chevrolet that you're learning the dealership. So I had to go into work for 10 months. It wasn't easy.
And that car, where the crime was committed, was sitting in the showroom.
After the car was repaired, it was put in the showroom right in front of my office. So I had to look at that car for 3 to 4 weeks, every day, all day, until it was so. And the showroom held, I think, 13 cars, but it was put right in front of my desk. And when Bill Powell was indicted, that's the day I walked out and never walked back in.